What is something that you think that our cultural background, your upbringing, brought has helped you in your career?
There are people who make certain decisions that are not the best in terms of their financials, but they are the best for their current life situation. When people ask what I do, I don't give them the title first. They probably immediately think that you're selling something like an insurance policy.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Said Real Talk Corner. I'm excited to have you here and join us wherever you may be. This podcast, we aim to just grow together, learn with each other, and connect with each other when we're not at the conference. So today, I'm really excited to be joined by Luis Rosa, who is one of the founding members of SAID and an active participant in our community. He's a financial advisor helping families all across the world and is a top advisor, just accolades up the yin yang. And so I'm super excited to have you here, Hermano. Thank you for taking a little time to just kind of get us started, Luis. Just I'd love to learn a little bit about your background for those who haven't got to know you, a little bit about your origin and where you came from and how you kind of came into the profession.
Gracias, Guillermo. I appreciate the warm welcome. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I came to the US when I was a kid at age 11 from Dominican Republic, and I didn't know any English. So I always tell people I had to learn two languages, which is English and money, because not only were we new to the US, we were also new to the US financial system. So initially, it was a trajectory for both me and my siblings to learn just the basic concepts of certain things and how they worked in the United States as far as money. And I remember really not being able to learn any of those things at school because it wasn't offered there. And my parents didn't know either. So we were the ones that had to figure things out. Simple stuff, even how to pay bills. My
Mm-hmm.
parents never really had, not even a credit card growing up. I remember the most they had was at some point we got them to get a bank account. But initially it was, I'm going to date myself, but people were using money orders, which were basically you go to like the post office or the check cashing place, and it serves kind of like a check. And then you say, hey,
Yeah.
let me get a money order for X amount of dollars. And then you made it
Yeah.
out to whomever. So those kinds of things. And that translated into why I ended up in this industry, because when I finally graduated college, I grew up in New York City, and man, I realized that a lot of my colleagues, peers growing up were in a similar situation where now we were the first ones in our families to start graduating college and learning about money, but we really didn't have a place to go to learn about money. So even if we were making quote unquote good money, I still didn't know what a 401k was or a stock or a bond. I didn't even know what a financial planner was. That was not even a major in my school, and it was a challenge learning basically by making mistakes, asking a lot of questions. I'm
Mm-hmm.
before the era of Google, believe it or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
When I was in college, there was no Google yet, there were no smartphones, so we didn't have information as handy as
Yeah.
people have it now, which now is the opposite problem. There's probably information overload and a lot of
Overload.
misinformation. So that's a little bit of my background in terms of my personal story. On the
Yeah.
career side, I initially started working for a company out of college. It was a CFP and a CPA who had a firm together, and they couldn't afford to hire me full time at that moment. So I was still working in a mailroom in a law firm while I was in for them at night. And that's how I learned
Mhm.
about the industry initially. And it still took me several months to understand and grasp the concept of what a financial planner does.
Yeah.
Sitting in on meetings, I was very confused. I just could not figure out why were these people coming to this guy and how was he helping them.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
eventually, after being in the industry for a couple of months, and I finally somewhat was like, okay, I see what you're doing here. And this is very
Yeah.
interesting to me. So then from there, I started getting more involved in like getting more knowledge, getting more licenses, right? The Series 7 for stockbroker and enrolled agent and those kinds of things, and just upping my knowledge from there.
Yeah, and kind of take a little step back. You know, the responsibility that some of the kids take on on behalf of their parents, I think sparks that general curiosity in finance. It's a common thing that I've seen with the people I interview, and from there, you had a host of like different options. Oh, I could be an engineer, police, or whatever. So you had the general curiosity for money. I think a lot of people do. But how did you, if you were going to go back and say, you know what, when I was in school, at this point, like you have to make a choice. How did you come out with the finance degree, or did you after the fact, after you got your general degree and then got your job at a finance firm?
At the school where I was, the closest thing I had to money was economics.
Hmm.
So I got a degree, I got a BA in economics.
Oh,
And
okay.
I remember thinking to myself, I like numbers and I like working with people.
Okay.
And my school finally introduced a finance degree the year that I was leaving, but I would have had to stay an extra year in college and do 5 years. So I wasn't about to do that. I was eager to get into the workforce and making some real money, right?
Yeah.
So economics gave me more of an idea, perhaps, of the way money works, but it was very broad and very theoretical. So
Hmm.
even with a college degree, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I started working at that firm where I saw it in practice what a financial advisor does and then learn about insurance and stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, and that kind of stuff. So it became more practical then. And then I saw how someone using advice and then different tools available to them can implement the plan to help people. And that's when when it clicked for me.
Nice. And then to get a job, I think that's especially for a minority, someone of minority, sometimes breaking in and getting a job is a challenge. How did you kind of land that first job?
Yeah, you make a great point. It was a big challenge. It took me several months out of college to even land this job, and even when I did, it was part time. And initially, one thing I noticed, it was very driven by product.
Hmm.
Initially, just the industry in general, and this is one of the things that I find most challenging is that I find a lot of people, especially from the minority backgrounds that come into this industry, they don't really get to see true financial planning. It typically comes from a sales side. And I've seen a lot of companies out there that pitch to people to come into the industry. Very easy to call yourself a financial advisor, right? That word is
Hmm.
not really like currently anything that you need to have a degree or a certificate in anything, right? You can have a life insurance license and call yourself a financial advisor. And a lot of the times what I noticed was people were selling product and they get discouraged because
Yeah.
number one, it wasn't like you were making a base salary. It was usually driven by commission. And then number two, it was very sales focused. So you weren't really learning about the process of financial planning. You were just learning about how to pitch people and sell them stuff.
Hmm.
Even banks today, right? I have clients currently, if they have a large cash balance, the tellers are already trained to say, hey, why don't you talk to one of our financial advisors? And usually that comes with a pitch for a product. Clients call me all the time, hey, the bank wants to sell me this.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfortunate because it's one of the things that I find most challenging for people looking to come into this industry is just that barrier to entry. There's not a lot of opportunity for you to come in at an entry level and learn. Most firms already want you to have some sort of experience. And then the people that do get exposed to that experience sometimes get discouraged from being in the industry altogether just because of the way they came in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's super. I resonate with that. Like a lot of us have to just not like press our way through and just um, and find that opportunity. And if it's a product oriented firm, just getting the experience because like everybody requires that experience. So it's unfortunate that we have sometimes have to go through that in order to break into this industry, and then realize hopefully at some point I don't want to do this, I don't like this, and then you meet people at SER, and like, oh, there's a different world out there. Oh man, like I would love to transition to something like that. And so the cool thing is that you yourself got to experience a little bit of financial planning and the impact of that. So hopefully it didn't discourage you and made you the person you are today. It was just your stepping stone. So kudos, congrats. I'm super excited.
Thank you.
Do you not do you want to share a little bit about how, I know you and others started something to kind of help with that? Is that still something that is going on, or still making an impact? Want to share a little bit about that, or?
Yeah, we created, myself and three other colleagues. It's like 6 years ago now. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
during the pandemic.
during the
We
pandemic.
created the BLX internship program. You can go to blxinternship.org to learn more about it, but it was designed to help people from underrepresented backgrounds that wanted to get into the industry, both students and career changers. And what
Hmm.
we did was we created a program where we pair them with RIAs
Hmm.
and provide those opportunities, typically as a summer internship. And it's a paid opportunity. And we made that one of the requirements for firms that wanted to participate, because we also, by our own experience, realized that a lot of people from underrepresented backgrounds don't have the luxury of working for free for a whole summer to
Yeah.
gain that opportunity and build up their resume. So we created this very meaningful opportunity for someone with no background at all to be working directly with an RIA, learn about financial planning, get paid as well. And then from there, maybe that could become a permanent opportunity,
Yeah.
or you can get a letter of recommendation or expand your network. But it's nothing but positive by doing
Yeah.
that. And over the years, we were able to partner with a lot of organizations that were very supportive of what we were trying to do and provided resources to those interns. And it just became a great thing. We have placed over 100 interns in opportunities and have impacted more than that, because we've created scholarships to various different things and opportunities to attend conferences, and just created a community. So we're very proud of having done that.
No, I when I saw that, I actually got to meet some of the people of the BLX mentorship, and the opportunity that the program provided was life changing. So, thank you, Luis. It just speaks to who you are as a person, and how you look to make an impact beyond yourself with BLX and here at SED. So, thank you. Super cool stuff. But one of those things that, the reason we want to increase the diversity is because we bring something to the table, right? Our cultural background brings some to the table to this profession. What is something that you think that our cultural background, your upbringing, brought has helped you in your career?
I think it's an of those certain cultural aspects that someone without the background may not necessarily understand. And
Mhm.
I think that framework helps us be less judgmental when it comes to working with clients, because there are people who make certain decisions that are not the best in terms of their financials, but they are the best for their current life situation and based on what they're trying to do. A lot of us find ourselves in a situation where we're sandwiched, where we're probably helping a younger sibling and or our parents at the same time. And I see that a lot with my clients. I have clients from all over the world, that live here now, but they have a younger sibling here that they're putting through school, and they have their parents back in Mexico, that they need to send a certain monthly figure to. Now, would they be better off saying, no, sorry, I can't help you, I'm going to put this in my Roth IRA? Sure, financially, right? But that's not the best decision for them in this moment, because it's very important for them to help their family members. So having that cultural background and say, look, I completely understand that. I've been there myself, where I've had to put money back into the household. let's figure out a way where you can do both. Sometimes maybe you can't max out your 401k right now, but look, your employer gives you 6%. How about we work towards that goal? Maybe we'll
Yeah.
increase it 1% a year, so that at least you're taking advantage of the match, and you're also helping your sibling. Eventually they'll graduate, right? And eventually you'll be in a better position to better help your parents. But I think that cultural background and understanding really helps us, because a lot of us have already gone through that. So we have that empathy and the
Mhm.
ability to make people not feel judged, and not throw
Yeah.
the book at them, the textbook, and say, "Oh no, you shouldn't be supporting XYZ.
Yeah.
Let's max out your 401k instead."
Yeah, definitely. It's blending two worlds, right? It's the blending of two worlds that that sometimes they intersect, but sometimes they want to go in opposite directions. So weaving those two worlds is definitely a strength that we bring. And thanks for sharing a little insight on that. Um, and have you ever seen it where like you struggled to because of your culture identity to kind of resonate with your clients or anything like that?
Yeah, I think one thing that stands out to me was me thinking about myself coming from the Dominican Republic, learning
Mhm.
English, having to learn about the US financial system, even though I had the experience and the certifications, I still felt inadequate, because I'm like, well, who, who am I to be
Yeah.
given, and it was intimidating too, because I never knew anyone personally that had, a $750,000
Millions,
IRA, right?
millions, yeah.
Or a 401k. I mean, I barely knew people who were contributing to their 401k. So for me to work with a client that had $1 million, $2 million, like I was actually scared. It
Mhm.
really scared me to work with somebody that had $1 million, because I'm like, who am I to be telling these people what to do with their money when I myself haven't achieved what they
Yeah.
have? But I think that if we look into the fact that we can just walk the walk that we're preaching at our current level. So it doesn't
Mhm.
mean that you have to be more successful than your clients, but you do what you're supposed to do on your end, right? Are you yourself contributing towards your retirement, or bringing down your debt, saving for your future? Do
Yeah.
you have an emergency savings yourself? Have you gone through the process of estate planning and making sure that your beneficiaries are set up the way they're supposed to be? Those kinds of things, right? Like, so you
Yeah.
don't need to be a millionaire to feel adequate to give people advice, as long as you're doing what you tell your clients to do as well, and you walk that walk. And it actually makes you even more relatable. I think you don't need to be scared to share your own experiences.
Mhm.
There was a time when I had on my website some of the things that I did wrong when I was in college. Like, so if somebody landed on there, they'll be like, they'll see, like, I got into debt in college. When I got my first credit card, I was super excited. I didn't even have a job at the time, but I got a $250 credit limit.
That's
And spring break came around. Hey, Cancun, here we go with the plane
yeah.
tickets, right? Um, I think it's a great thing to share that. Don't feel like you have to have it all figured out and be more successful than your clients in order to give them meaningful and true advice that's in their best interest.
Yeah, I like that, and it's a good segue to our little segment of practicing what you preach. Right, little, give us a little behind the scenes view of how Luis Rosa practices what he preaches to his clients. How do you kind of build your wealth? How do you build your long term day to day finances?
Yeah, so I'm married. My wife and I have combined our finances. So that was one of the first thing we worked
Mhm.
towards. Now, we recognize that it's very important for individuals to have their own individual identity within a marriage, right? So, although we have joint accounts, both brokerage accounts and bank accounts, we also do have our own separate individual checking accounts. But we both know about those accounts, right? Like, it's not like we're hiding anything from each other. But
Mhm.
everybody in the relationship, right? We get to have our own independence, right? So if I want to have a couple of $1,000 in one account, and she the same, it makes it very easy for her to be able to buy me a gift too, right? Like, without me knowing about it, because if everything comes from the joint account, I'll see all. So those kinds of little things are very important.
Yeah. Oh, that.
So we have that kind of
Okay.
setup. So we have a joint brokerage account, which is actually in the name of a trust. So I'll tell you all of the aspects of how I walk the walk. So we also have a joint high yield savings account that has different buckets, one for emergency savings, another one for common goals, whether it's like a vacation fund, that kind of stuff. And then we individually have Roth IRAs, rollover IRAs from old jobs that we have 401ks in, and then we set up a trust. We met with an attorney. We went through the whole process of creating a revocable trust, powers of attorney, healthcare proxies, having the trust, own my business, creating an operating agreement for my business. Also, we both have life insurance as well. What else? And then, we invest and save every month as well. So we make that a priority no matter what. And that was a challenge, especially through our younger years married, just because of life transitions where we weren't always able to save, right? Because, for example, I worked at the firm that I initially started my career with for 15 years. When I left, I didn't have a large enough set of clients to sustain myself financially. We moved out of state. So I kind of started from scratch. And there was a time where I had to get a full-time job and do a lot of side hustles. So I wasn't able to contribute in the sense of like, hey, let's max out our retirement plan. Like, just, the main priority was paying the bills.
Priorities. Yeah, exactly.
And it ebbs and flows, right? It ebbs and flows. There were times where I had credit card debt. And I mean, there was a time where this is insane, but I want you to hear the impact of this, where there was a time where the minimum payments on my credit cards were higher than the rent I was paying. So let that sink in for a second, right? My rent was lower than my minimums on the credit cards. But that gave me a lot of pride when I finally was able to pay all those things off, because I did the work, all those things that I was doing that was very hypothetical, like the snowball method and like giving printouts to clients, hey, pay this much. I actually did that myself. So I know it's doable, and I know it's not perfect either. Sometimes you're going to stumble and life gets in the way, but it makes me more relatable because I could tell a client, hey man, I did this, man. It took me X amount of years to come out of debt. It's all good. Let's, it's not going to be perfect.
Let's keep there's a light end of the tunnel. Absolutely. And I like how you've been very open about this and sharing. I can resonate to a lot of what you said. The save, and the one thing that my wife and I did early on, that those monthly budget conversations with my wife, I kind of like, hey, how do we do this month? How do we do? Did we save? Did we not save? And then I like that, you guys have the high yield savings to kind of target those future goals, future dreams, future vacations. I love that. It's so practical, and it's something that I'm sure you're preaching with your clients. So this is super cool.
Yeah. And another challenge I wanted to share was being self-employed, even if you don't own your own business, but a lot of us are 1099 employees, right? 1099 contractors in a sense, if you're at an RIA and you have like your own clients. And one challenge I had, which again, it's good for me to have gone through that, to be able to tell clients, is taxes, especially the fact that you don't get taxes withheld from that pay. It's very easy to get that big commission check. A lot of us get paid quarterly. Like even me now, I get paid every quarter, right? That's when I do the billing from Schwab. You have to have your budget right, man, to only get paid 4 times a year. Like you got to plan 3 months ahead, right? So a lot of people forget about taxes, and then tax season comes and you're like, oh my God, you're trying to figure out how much can you write off this, that. Well, that's not the case anymore for me, right? So I've had it set up where I have my own S corp, and I was drawing a salary and paying taxes right from my paycheck and paying myself. And I've also had it set up where currently I do quarterly taxes to the IRS and the state, right? Because you want to get ahead of that. You want to avoid penalties. You don't want this large bill, because then it compounds. Maybe you won't be able to pay that big bill, and now you got an IRS installment agreement on top of everything else. and it's just a hole that it's going to be hard to dig out of that, so,
Yeah,
but it's good
that's
to
the
have been
price.
able to go through all that, and you get that sense of pride to have been able to say, it's funny, but I'm actually excited to write the IRS the check,
Yeah, yeah,
because I'm like, man, I'm doing this, man. I put money
yeah,
aside for these estimates. Like it feels good.
yeah. It's one is like, thank goodness that you've come to you've achieved, you've like, your story is like starting to negative net worth, negative income sheet balance, income sheet, and then to now where it's like you've grown your income to a certain level that now it's like, I have to write the IRS a check because thank goodness I've gone up, I've pushed through, I've elevated myself to a point where it's like, hey, I have to pay this. Hey, I learned my lessons previously where I was surprised by the tax bill. No, not today. I gladly write this, and it I think what you said is sharing your story, practicing what you preach to your clients. I've been there, and this journey that you've been through has helped you more relatable and elevated your clients. Hey, I've been this before. Let me see let me know what's coming ahead. You're gonna get through this. You're gonna get there's a light at in the tunnel that, hey, let's walk on this together. So this is why it's so important that we share some of this, like, some of this transparency and how we as planners elevate our personal financial lives, so that way we can enhance the lives of our clients. So thank you for being transparent and sharing that. It's really super insightful.
Yeah, my pleasure. I think we should own it. We should own it because if you think about when people come to us, sometimes it could be at their most vulnerable because a lot of the times nobody reaches out and says, hey, I need a comprehensive financial plan. There's usually a reason why they reach out. There's something going on in their lives. There's a decision to be made that they need help with. And then eventually you're like, okay, yeah, we need to do some planning, right? But at least in my case, there's always a reason. And a lot of the times people don't feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable, especially if it's a couple. Maybe they're embarrassed by the amount of debt they've accumulated or the fact that they don't have as much as they feel like they should have saved so far based on their age. And you have to deal with that and let them know that this is a safe space, that they can talk about it. And that's part of the process, right? And another part of the process is I think we got to put on our educator hat as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then start teaching from there, right? Okay, you made these mistakes. Let's turn that into a lesson, not a loss.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's so many nuggets, and the way you do it might not be the way I do it or other people do it, but it's all getting us one step closer to a better building that generational wealth that that we
I
didn't.
love what you said there too. I really love that you have your own unique style. You and I can talk about the difference between a Roth and a traditional IRA completely different and both be right. So own that too.
Yeah,
you don't have to do it like I do it, right? Like you develop your own style. It has to feel comfortable for you.
Yeah, I like it. And then we're gonna transition to a little segment called La Verdad, the real talk. You've been real already, but kind of one of the things that we like to share and get your insight is like, what's like one misconception about our profession, our culture, or money that doesn't get talked about enough?
I think one thing on the profession side is that, unfortunately, I think the industry in general has this negative connotation that financial advisors sell something. I think if you ask a lot of people what a financial advisor is, they probably immediately think that you're selling something like an insurance policy, right? And obviously, those are tools that may be valuable in a plan, but I think the misconception is you're pushing something on. I think it's because of the way the industry has initially been shaped. For the most part, most interactions that your average person has, whether it's at the bank or calling like a broker dealer, for example, it usually involves some transactional thing. The fact that we provide advice separate from any of those things or in addition to, right, it's something that isn't well known. I think the RIA world it's very small. I think it's not the standard that people think. Even myself, it took me over a decade of being in the industry to even know that there was such a thing as an RIA. I didn't know. And
Yeah.
then fee only and all that, forget about it. So I think that's one misconception. And the other one is the misconception of minorities not being a powerful economic force. I think a lot of the times when we see things like numbers out there, like you say, oh, like the numbers of Latinos, right? As far as like purchasing power, that gets pushed a lot, right? Like we're a large purchasing block that we could be advertised to for products. And there's also a lot of wealth in the Latino community.
Mhm.
I think equating Latino with lack of, you know, is a big mistake for a lot of people, automatically assuming that we just don't have the means. We may be lacking the knowledge, the education, maybe even the opportunity, but a lot of the times we have the resources, but we're just not aware of how we can use them. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that we could do ourselves, is part of the education piece.
Yeah. Love that. I love that. And then I know. So now that I'm looking at your banner. So you put financial planner. Is that kind of how you introduce yourself? Like do you deviate from financial advisor? Like, hey, I'm Luis Rosa, financial advisor, or how did you actually introduce yourself then?
Yeah, thank you. I go with financial planner instead of advisor because at least it's the closest thing to a certified financial planner professional, which you have to put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to be able to call yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
But I started introducing myself. When people ask what I do, I don't give them the title first
Mm,
because I think immediately if you just give them the title, they're going to think you do whatever their misconception is of the
yeah.
profession.
You lost me.
So usually if I'm at a networking event, I will tell someone like, yeah, I work with high earning first generation professionals and I help them build and grow their wealth.
Yeah.
And then people like, oh, so like they want to know more. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Right. And then at some point I may tell, but I may not even need to, right? Maybe until
Yeah.
they see it in my business card. So I tell them what I do and for who or whom,
Yeah.
as opposed to the title that comes with it.
I love that. I love that. And we're gonna end this episode because I feel like we could keep talking.
I'm having fun, man. This is
I love this. I love this conversation, and I know our listeners are gonna just take so much away from this and resonate with so much. So I'm excited to kind of throw some rapid fire questions at you, see what comes out, and try to keep you on your toes. We'll see how this goes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Don't get nervous. Here we go. All right. Let's go with some. What's one of the best advice you got as a young advisor?
As a young advisor, I got advice to get involved in the community. Rita Chang, she was instrumental in that. She invited me to be in a panel as a volunteer for the FPA Next Gen
Mm.
in 2019 or something like that. And basically being part of the community, because your network in this industry is immensely invaluable. You don't
Mhm.
have to be on an island by yourself. So if you don't have the opportunity within your own firm, seek out that camaraderie and mentorship from being part of a larger group of like-minded people, which then can turn up into friendships, mentorships, opportunities for you to give back, and maybe create something that doesn't exist that you think is not as something that could be improved in the industry, right? You could be part of that change.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then a little plug. Ser Summits is the place to be for like-minded Latino professionals, or at the FPA, FPA Latino, another thing I run. So join, look for me there, look for us there. If you want to network there, I love that. I think that I agree so much with that, and because it speeds up your learning curve, because there's other people that this profession is. One thing about this profession, there's people that give back so much. It's not one where we gatekeep. It's one we actually, regardless of race and ethnical background, everybody has been just a helping hand, and you just got to go out there and put yourself out there and look for it. I agree with you 100%. What's mindset shift that changed your career?
One mindset shift that changed my career is that you could create the financial well-being that you want for yourself in this industry while also doing the right thing for clients. It doesn't have to be an either or. And that sounds straightforward, but going back to the way a lot of people come into this industry, they feel like they have to push product to people, and that's not the case, right? So shifting with leading with planning first has opened that mindset for me of like, I can have a lot of impact in my clients' lives based on the help that I can provide, serving as a thinking partner with them, right? This is a collaborative approach. And yeah, I mean, obviously I deserve to get compensated for it, and I can create a really good financial life for myself as well, my own generational wealth, right, within the Rosa household. So,
Yeah.
and this is what I love about the industry. This could be a win-win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. I love that mindset shift. That it's not just everything for me, and pigeonholing our clients into something they might not need to get. So love that. What's aside from your podcast, which is great, by the way.
Thank you.
What's another podcast or resource that you love to listen to kind of elevate your career, elevate your game?
Believe it or not, it's outside of the financial realm. Some of the things that I listen to are more on the self-improvement side. And what I mean by that is a wide range of things. So for example, like the Diary of a CEO podcast, there's a lot of interesting interviews there in the fields of wealth, in the fields of health, and so on. So I like to learn about different things that could make me a better person in general, because I think then it would make me a better advisor as well, a better friend, a better husband. And I think you want to create a life where you're giving from a position of strength. So things that I listen to are usually those kinds of things that just help me do better, eating better. How can I extend my longevity, be healthier, and so on.
Diary of a CEO. What else?
Another one on the industry side would be Michael Kitces, for sure. I think he's created just the standard for financial planner education. So
yeah,
if you want to, I don't think of your continuing education. I just listen to someone like a Michael Kitces. Like, you're going to learn a lot of technical stuff and a lot of things that are happening out there that you may not even be aware of, right? The resources that you can use for your clients. Especially what I love about it is the up-to-date stuff. When something new comes out, right? The one big beautiful bill, how can you learn about it and then apply that to your clients' lives? That kind of stuff.
Love that. So Diary CEO is going to be added to my podcast list. So thank you for sharing that. Last question. What's one thing said has meant to you personally, professionally?
For me, man, it's been the community aspect. So it has meant a lot because it's something that we created together, for us, by us. And, we hear a lot where it's so common to go to a traditional conference and not see our faces. To me, I think one of the difference was, I think the fact that now when I go to a traditional conference, I do see more Black and brown faces in the audience, but SAID has them on stage. Yeah. And that is a shift, and what I love about it is that we're not talking about what it's like to be a Latino advisor at every session, right? We have people who are successful in their own right, and they happen to be Black or brown, and they're talking about economic policies, and we're learning from them, marketing, and everything, right? Like,
Yeah.
And I love that because it's like, I could be that one day too if I aspire to be. It's just proof that it's doable. And that's what it's meant for me, just the visual representation of what's possible.
I love that. And if you haven't bought your tickets yet, go to saidsummits.com right now. Find the ticket tailor link and purchase them because it's right around the corner. In the August 31st to December 1st, I believe. So definitely go to saidsummits.com. If you have any questions, reach out to us on LinkedIn. But we're super excited and for to see a lot of you there. Luis, I'm excited to see you there again. Hopefully we get to hang out this time. Not so busy presenting all the time, but I really appreciate our conversation today, the transparency, vulnerability, and the nuggets you share with our knowledge, with our audience. I think it's going to be relatable. Can't wait to hear what they have to share. Thanks, everybody.